Is on Srimad Bhagvatam 7.13. Verse number 30 and onwards. So, Prabhuji, please take over the call now if you are ready. Hare Krishna.
7:15, right?
13. 7.13.30.
7:13:30, is it?
Yes, Prabhu.
Okay. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskrityam Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudiraye Nashtaprayeshu Abhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtiki. So, we are very fortunate to discuss Srimad Bhagavatam in the Assembly of Vaishnavas. Srimad Bhagavatam in the Assembly of Bhagavatas is highly purifying. So this is a chapter called The Behavior of a Perfect Person. Text number 30. Dehadibirdaeva tantrair atmanas sukamihata dukatyayam chani shasya kriya mogha krita krita. The living entity tries to achieve happiness and rid himself of the causes of distress. But because the various bodies of the living entities are under the full control of material nature, all his plans in different bodies, one after another, are ultimately baffled. Purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Because the materialist is in gross ignorance of how the laws of material nature act upon him as a result of his fruitive activity, he mistakenly plans to enjoy bodily comfort in the human form of life through so-called economic development, through pious activities for elevation to the higher planetary systems, and in many other ways, but factually he becomes a victim of the reactions of his fruitive activities. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is situated as the Super Soul within the cores of the hearts of all living entities. As the Lord says in Bhagavad Gita, Sarvasya Chaham Hridi Sannivishto. Mattah Smriti Jnanam Apohanamscha. I am seated in everyone's heart, and from me come remembrance, knowledge, and forgetfulness. The desires and activities of living being are observed by the Super Soul, who is the Upadrishta, the overseer, and who orders material nature to fulfill the various desires of the living being. As clearly stated in Bhagavad Gita 18.61, Ishvara Sarva Bhutanam Hrideshe Arjuna Tishtati Brahmayan Sarva Bhutani Yantra Rudani Mayaya. The Lord is situated in everyone's heart, and as one desires, the Lord gives one various types of bodies which are like machines. Riding on such a machine, the living entity wanders throughout the universe under the control of material nature and its modes. Thus, the living being Thus, the living being is not at all free to act, but fully under the control of material nature, which is fully under the control of Supreme Personality of Godhead. As soon as a living entity is victimized by material desires to lord it over material nature, he is subjected to the control of material nature, which is supervised by the Supreme Soul. The result is that one again and again makes plans and is baffled. But as foolish as he is, he cannot see the cause of his bafflement. This cause is distinctly stated in Bhagavad Gita. But one has not surrendered to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He must work under the control of material energy and its stringent laws. Daivihi esha gunamayi mama maya duratya. The only means of becoming free from this entanglement is to surrender to the Supreme Lord. In human form of life, the living entity must accept this instruction from the Supreme Person Krishna. Sarvadharman paridyajya mam ekam sharanam vraja. Do not plan to achieve happiness and drive away distress. You will never be successful. Simply surrender unto me. Unfortunately, however, the living entity does not accept the Supreme Lord's clearly stated instruction from Bhagavad Gita, and thus he becomes perpetual captive of the laws of material nature. Yajnartat karmano anyatra lokoyam karma bandhanaha. If one does not act for the satisfaction of Krishna, who is known as Vishnu or Yajna, he must be entangled in the reactions of fruitive activities. These reactions are called Papa and Punya, sinful and pious. By pious activities, one is elevated to the higher planetary systems, and by impious activities, one is degraded to the lower species of life, in which he is punished by the laws of nature. In the lower species of life, there is an evolutionary process, and when the term of living entity's imprisonment or punishment in the lower species is finished, he is again offered a human form and given a chance to decide for himself which way he should plan. If he again misses the opportunity, he is again put into the cycle of birth and death, going sometimes higher and sometimes lower, turning on the samsara chakra, the wheel of material existence. As the wheel sometimes goes up and sometimes comes down, the stringent laws of material nature make the living entity in material existence sometimes happy and sometimes distressed. How he suffers in the cycle of happiness and distress is described in the next verse. Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakayam Chakshuran Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah. Namam Vishnu Padaya Krishna Preshtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swamin Niti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvisesha Sunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gauravakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Dehadibhirdaiva tantrair atmanas sukamihata dukatyayam janishasya kriya mogha krita krita. The living entity tries to achieve happiness and rid himself of the causes of distress. But because the various bodies of living entities are under the full control of material nature, all his plans in different bodies, one after another, are ultimately baffled. So, very detailed purport Srila Prabhupada has given, wherein he is highlighting one single point, that if you plan against Krishna, then we will be punished. And second point that Srila Prabhupada is highlighting is, if you fail to plan, then you are planning to fail. In an indirect way, he is saying. The third highlight of this purport is, Srila Prabhupada is saying, the nature of materialistic thinking and materialistic decisions, and how when somebody falls into that trap, how it is a time consuming as well as it's only a temporary arrangement. Till a person surrenders to Krishna, he will be surviving on this temporary arrangement, but wondering why he is not getting permanent happiness or permanent solution. And when somebody is vigilant enough about it, then they will start to seek spiritual knowledge. So, a practicing devotee is very much warned about the evil effects of materialistic life as well as pseudo spiritual life. Pseudo spiritual life means consciousness wise, experience wise, thinking, willing, feeling wise, we may exhibit some sign of devotional sentiments, but in reality, we are losing ourselves. As usual, we are going to take this context and churn them up and take home some learnings for us. The very first reflection in this current context is about the position of a living entity. In Upadeshamrita, Rupa Goswami is explaining this, and Prabhupada is giving a nice purport. Srila Prabhupada is explaining that if a living entity associates with Krishna's internal potency, he acquires devotional sentiments, but if the same living entity associates with Krishna's external energy, so a terminology is used: Antaranga Shakti, Tatastha Shakti, and Bahiranga Shakti. So we being Tatastha Shakti, we have tendency to swing between extremes. Madhurya Kadambini also confirms this, that anyone who is performing anishtita bhajana kriya, nishtita bhajana kriya or nishta means you are firmly fixed in Krishna consciousness. Anishtita bhajana kriya means I am involved in bhajana, but there is no nishta. I am wavering. So, out of the 6 symptoms of anishtita bhajana kriya, one of them is having mood swings. Suddenly, we will think that the process of Krishna consciousness is so wonderful, and suddenly we start to think that why am I wasting my youthhood? Why am I wasting my time over here? So, my first reflection is about understanding this aspect that as living entities, as Tatashta Shakti, our duty is to somehow or other look up to Krishna's Yoga Maya, Krishna's Antaranga Shakti, and try to strike a chord with her so that we can elevate ourselves and rise above. In the purport, Prabhupada is writing how if you don't do that and try to subscribe to some materialistic results, then our consciousness gets degraded and we are pushed into the darkest region of our existence, and from there we have to start evolving. For sure, there is always some evolution process identified, but it is easily spoken than somebody going through that. 84 lakh species, and somebody has to evolve through all sorts of species, all sorts of pain. That is unwarranted. That's not expected. That's not necessary. Even after so many instructions are discussed on this, if somebody is subscribing to such a lifestyle, then they are unavoidable. So my first reflection in this current context is to establish this part of we being the Tatastha Shakti, we have an advantage. We meaning any sane human being. They have to be rational in their thinking. They have to be very prudent in their decisions and try to subscribe to Krishna consciousness against all possible odds. Because when we practice Krishna consciousness, there will be several odds, several difficult situations that might come in front of us and will not let us do Krishna consciousness. But knowing that this is a diseased state of mind, this is a diseased condition, this is the diseased surroundings, an individual practicing devotee should develop courage and try to swing towards Krishna consciousness way of life, Krishna consciousness, thinking, so that he can slowly elevate his consciousness. Because in the translation, Narada Muni is explaining, the living entity tries to achieve happiness. That's a fantastic story. We have discussed once before. I will remind that story. A person was walking inside the forest. Suddenly, a tiger started chasing him. Fearing from the tiger, this person started to run towards, some shelter. And he didn't realize that he was going to keep a leg on the elephant trap, because generally in the jungles, in the forest, to trap elephants, the hunters, they create an elephant trap. From external naked eye, you will see as if it is like a plain ground, but underneath there will be a huge pit in which they trap elephant and finally, catch the elephant. So this guy running out of fear from tiger, he ran, and finally kept his leg on the elephant trap. But to his good fortune, he didn't fall inside the trap. He caught hold of a leaning branch, a small branch of the tree which was leaning over that particular place. So he held on to that branch and he says, thank God, somehow I didn't fall inside. So he saw down, there were poisonous creatures, snakes, scorpions, and other poisonous creatures. So if he goes to jump down anyway, his life is going to be finished. There's no guarantee for his life. So then he thought, let me go up. The tiger that was chasing him is waiting for his prey. So neither he can go up, nor he can jump down. So this guy was, in a very precarious condition. This particular allegory is narrated by Vidura to Dhritarashtra in Mahabharata. So then Vidura is explaining, this guy, after, checking out down and upstairs where he knew for sure that he cannot go, he is looking around. And in the process, he is seeing some rats. They were trying to eat the roots on which he was, hanging. So even if he doesn't wish to fall down, very soon the branch is going to, fall. And because of this guy hanging over the branch, because of his shaking, there was a honeycomb in that branch that got disturbed and started to, sting this guy. So neither he can go up, nor he can jump down, nor he can stay focused there. He is pushed against the wall in all the four directions. And then such a person telling Krishna, I am planning it. Very soon I'll be happy. I'm working for it. Very soon I will create something. Prabhupada says, these are all foolish ideologies. They are trying to fool the society at large by trying to say that we are inventing, we are creating, we are going to make you deathless, we are going to do this, that. So it is imperative that we all be vigilant. So Vidura was telling that he is constantly being, stung by the bees from the tree because of his shaking. So he can't go up, he can't jump down, and anyway the branch is going to fall off because of the rats. And now that the honeybees are stinging him, he may not be able to cope up for a long time. At that instance, this person sticking his tongue out, he went to identify the honey droplets dripping out of the comb as they were shaking and they were moving the branch. As this guy was moving the branch, so honey droplets were starting to fall off. And this guy was, trying to capture the honey droplets. So Vidura is explaining the nature of this material world is chanchala. The nature of this material world is asashwata. Nature of this material world is, this is a place where criminals are punished. Even though this is under the control of God, similar to how jail is under the control of government, this material world is also under the control of, the Lord's agents, whose duty is to punish for the mistakes. So from that perspective, it is important that we don't fall prey to such situations and eventually try to glorify the Supreme Lord, chant the names of the Lord, and we will get some solution rather than trying to enjoy the honey droplets at the time of death. We all will follow Prahlad Maharaj and chant the holy name of the Lord even when death approaches us. So my first reflection is that in our devotional journey, we should understand that we are tatastha, we are all just marginal living entities, and as much as we have developed taste for Krishna, yedam mam prapadyante tam stataiva bhajamyaham mama vardamanu vartante manushya partha sarvasaha. So Krishna reciprocates according to one's devotional sentiments. So our duty is to make sure that we please the Supreme Lord. And by that way, we are effectively replacing our tatastha position and swinging towards spirituality. Reflection number 2. Srila Prabhupada writes in this purport a very profound statement. Yajnarthat karmano anyatra lokoyam karma bandhana. He's saying, if one does not act for the satisfaction of Krishna, because we also know other shloka from Bhagavad Gita, what is that? Karmanyeva adhikaraste ma phaleshu katachana. So if we combine these two, Krishna is saying, please do your duty and expect the results from me. Whatever results I give you, that's a bona fide one. On your own, don't try to long for results. Now, this reference, Yajnartat Karmano Anyatra Lokoyam Karma Bandhana, is a continuation of that. If you do not act in satisfaction of Krishna, we are definitely going to suffer. So hence my second reflection is about the aspect of what Srila Prabhupada is explaining over here. How to rise beyond Papa and Punya, and how to work for the satisfaction of the Supreme Lord. If you work for the satisfaction of the Supreme Lord, like Sudama did, like Prahlad Maharaj did, like Dhruva Maharaj did, one will be able to easily handle the turbulences of this material world. If satisfaction of Krishna is not there, whatever accomplishment, success one may achieve, Shamayevahi Kevalam Dharmasya Anustita Pumsam Nisvakshena Gata Suyaha Natat Padayatiratim Shamayevahi Kevalam. So, if Vishvakshena Gata Suyaha, if somebody is not working for the satisfaction of Krishna, Vishnu, which means worshipping Krishna is not an option. It is important, vital, without which our existence is questioned. Krishna Ekala Ishwaraha. Krishna is like one. All the activities are like zeros. If there is no Krishna, then all we get is only simply waste of time. So my second reflection is that in our service attitude, please try to include satisfaction of Krishna as the primary agenda. Third reflection. By we trying to become a noble student or a sincere student of Vedanta studies, there is an aspect of Panditya and there is an aspect of conviction. So, by Panditya, by scholarly nature, just by having a scholarly knowledge, we are not completely accomplishing the purpose of life. So, we need to have conviction. Arjuna had conviction, Gopis had conviction, Prahlad Maharaj had conviction, Dhruva Maharaj had conviction, Prabhupada had conviction. So they are all known for conviction, not for their panditya. So my second reflection is, working for the satisfaction of Krishna is not even just an option. It is the way of life. That is why Krishna consciousness is just not part of our life. It is a way of life. And those who are not Krishna conscious, Prabhupada is explaining here. In the lower species of life, there is an evolutionary process, and when the term of the living entity's imprisonment or punishment in the lower species is finished, he is again offered a human form. So how many times, how many efforts, how many iterations we may have to take. So, Isyacha, the best solution is work for the satisfaction of Krishna. That is called devotional service. So, our context, even though, is about the society, the behavioral part of a Vaishnava civilization. Yesterday I was giving a Chaitanya Bhagavat class that we were discussing how in Kali Yuga, Kali acts in so many ways. Kali is trying to derail us from being friend with Krishna. And Kali is sometimes not even be considerate. They may be ruthless. So, hence, to conclude my second reflection, working for satisfaction of Krishna is the underlying principle for functioning. Third and last reflection. So, in this reflection, one should learn 3 points. Before we make our own plan, understand Krishna's plan. If in our devotional life, as Prabhupada explains here very, very nicely, that if we are not taking advantage of this human form of life, to get again human form of life is going to be taking a significant amount of time. So my third reflection is to work in such a manner to rise above Papa and Punya. By pious activities, one is elevated to the higher planetary systems, and by impious activities, one is degraded to lower species. That's what Prabhupada writes. So many a times in the modern day spiritualism, when somebody is religious, we are very happy. But we get little concerned when somebody move away from being religious to being devotional. Because being religious is an external aspect. It is associated with your various birth quotients. But for being a Vaishnava or a Vaishnavi, it is something by the will and wish of a bona fide devotee. So if at all anybody can save us from the cycle of birth and death, if at all somebody can rescue us from this dark well, samsara kupe patitotyagade mohanda purne vishayabhitapte karavalambam mama dehi Vishno Govinda Damodara Madhaveti. So simply, one need to learn to the occasion of understanding this human form of life is very rare, and I just simply surrender. Yesterday I was hearing a class of Gaur Gopal Prabhu. He was mentioning that an intelligent person is the one who may lose battles but will win the war. Losing small battles is okay. Because after all, our family, our friends, our relatives, our neighbors, our close contacts are also equally trying to make progress in Krishna consciousness. So from that perspective, if someone is trying to show interest in Krishna consciousness, if someone is trying to make his life dependent on Krishna, someone is trying to make his life completely for the pleasure of the Supreme Lord, as Prabhupada is to give this example of a scientist and a boatman. A scientist was going in the boat and he was asking the boatman, boatman, tell something about sun. The boatman said, sorry, I was busy all my life working, so I don't know anything about sun. The scientist boy said that 25% of your life is waste. Then he further went the stream. Boatman, at least tell something about stars here. He said that, sorry, I don't know anything about stars. He said, 50% of your life is waste. Then little further he said, tell something about moon. I don't know anything about moon also. That 75% of your life is waste. At that time a storm came and the boat was rocking. So the boatman asked the scientist, do you know swimming? The scientist told that all the life I was busy working, so never learned swimming. So the boatman jumped into the river saying 100% of your life is waste. So many a times we may do activities which are materially surcharged or materially tainted, and we will dwell on them. And this purport is a very important purport to clarify. Those who dwell like that, those who are trying to focus on their materialistic activities as giving them importance, then they will have to keep taking birth in this material world. Asradadanaha purusha dharmasya param tapa aprapyamam nivartante mrityu samsara vartmani. Krishna is explaining to Arjuna, Ashradadanaha purusha. If somebody does not have Shraddha in what I am teaching, Mrityu samsara vartmani. They have to go again and again and again in this cycle of birth and death. So my third reflection is to highlight this aspect that opportunities are to be created rather than we just wait for opportunity coming our way. An enthusiastic, inquisitive, eager person will create opportunities, and second-class men will avail opportunities, and third-class men will waste opportunities. So we cannot be a third-class man because I just now gave the statistics. 84 lakh species. Who knows when, where, how we will be. So hence, this process of Krishna consciousness, as Prabhupada explains, Ishvara Sarva Bhutanam Hrideshu Arjuna Tishtati. Paramatma is sitting in the heart and monitoring all our action, thoughts, willing, feeling, everything. So better to befriend him, better to support him, better to stay with him rather than, beating around the bush. So this particular shloka is, from that perspective, a very direct statement to all those who are lethargic in spiritual life. Prabhupada is giving a point in the purport. Unfortunately, however, the living being does not accept the Supreme Lord's clearly stated instructions from Bhagavad Gita and thus becomes a perpetual captive of the laws of material nature. Such a profound way of saying this. And the irony of all of those things is we subscribe to materialistic things. Material things are forced upon us. And we try to challenge Krishna. Why Krishna? Why you did this to me? Why Krishna you did this to me? They are baffled. But Prabhupada is asking, what is there to baffle? Because you created the mess. And naturally it will be concerning only. So from that standpoint, our duty is to create opportunities and go after Krishna consciousness lifestyle. Rest, every other possible lifestyle and activities are something that which is going to give temporary results. People may get carried away by many sorts of attractive things, but then all that glitters are not gold. So we have only rights to do what we are supposed to do. The results portion we can't dictate or influence. These instructions, when Narada Muni was giving to Yudhishthira Maharaj, for practicing devotee, this may sound very obvious. But we generally give up obvious things to follow. We generally don't take obvious things so easily. I mean, we take them so easily. So, hence, Krishna consciousness is giving us an extra warning through the lips of the Vaishnavas. They are warning. Jogyata vichare kichu nahi bhai tomara karuna shara. Karunana hoile kandiya kandiya pranana rakhi boara. When I was analyzing about my qualification, why, how, in a song, Lochandas Thakur is singing, Parama Karuna Pahudui Jana Nitai Gaura Chandra Savayavataram Sarashiromani Kevala Ananda Kanda. So he's saying, Pashu Pati Chure, Pasana Bitare, Suni Jar Gunagata. Birds, bees, they are also melting, hearing your glories, my dear Gauranga Mahaprabhu. My heart is so stone-hearted because of being extensively being attached to this materialistic world. My heart is attached, contaminated, and not able to appreciate, not even one drop of tear comes when I chant your holy name. What an unfortunate person I am. So, in our devotional journey, whether we are clear about what to do or not, we should be definitely clear about what we do not want. A wise man is that person who clearly knows what he don't want. But as practicing devotees in Mishra Bhakti, we somewhere at some point in time, we are greedy over so many things, thinking that they will all help me, but in reality, they will all take us away from Krishna and his service. So in our initiation vows, we give our vow to the spiritual master saying that I will follow 4 regulative principles and chant 16 rounds, because if those are the areas where Kali will come and attack, and if we are strong in those areas, nothing can happen because we are very well protected by the holy name of the Lord. So these are the 3 sets of reflections that I had in this current context. And eventually this chapter the next two chapters, are very much introspective ones for personal behavior and mainly towards improving upon ourselves, and they are not meant to criticize or show anyone down. So I will stop here and take up any questions, comments, reflections from you all, which is going to help us reflect on our Krishna conscious journey. ग्रंथराज श्रीमद् भागवतम की जय, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Pitai Gaurav Premanande, Hari Hari Bol. Any questions or comments? I'll be happy to respond.
Yeah. Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. This is Vinod Maheshwari. And thank you very much for taking your time and giving us class. Very nice. Yeah, it's a very good points you highlighted, your different reflections, Yeah, I never thought about when we get another chance of the human life, Yeah, somehow it's just kind of granted that, oh, we are human, so we're going to be human again. But that's not a true, right?
That's what Prabhupada is saying here. And interestingly, I was giving class the other day to another group. So we were discussing this point that if each and every one of us, hypothetically speaking, if we are darshan of Krishna right in front of us, and Krishna says, my dear friend, I will give you minus 20 years from your current life. In whichever stage you are in, you can go back 20 years backwards. With the same resources as in today, with the same intelligence as in today, with the same maturity as in today, with the same wealth as in today, but 20 years younger. What all will you change? Suppose if hypothetically such a question is put in, if we have good answers, I'm sure most of us will have lot many things in our life to change for good, for better. And that option is available now. So now assume that Krishna is going to give you next 20 years to live. Please implement those things. So it is as straightforward as that. Sometimes we think that before COVID, people were having a standard excuse that Prabhu, no time, office work, travel, so many reasons. So every possible excuses that a person used to give for Krishna consciousness were addressed. And COVID gave us lots of opportunity. I mean, COVID gave some other trouble too. Lots of opportunity for being more Krishna consciousness. Did we become Krishna conscious? Did we become, serious at the time? No, we had other distractions. So what Krishna is trying to say, what Prabhupada is trying to say is that please, the Goda, the horse, which is not having necessary, guide, will run in every possible direction. So take the guide of Bhagavad Gita, take the guide of Krishna's instructions and try to drive our life. Hare Krishna. Any other questions, comments, reflections? Okay, there are no further.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji, Dandavat Pranam. Thank you so much for this nectarian class and explaining so nicely about this verse 30 and your realizations, reflections at the end of the class. So thank you so much, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Ma. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji, Dandavat Pranam. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Thank you for the wonderful class, Prabhuji, and telling us about your wonderful reflections and also, the situation that all of us are in, like the person hanging on that tree. Prabhuji, my question is, wherever we are taking the name of the Lord, chanting the holy name, listening to wonderful Harikatha like this, isn't that the spiritual world? So there is no option but to hang on that tree and have all the situations, dangerous situations. But if this person who is hanging is chanting the name of the Lord and offering the honey that's falling to the Lord, can we say this is the spiritual world? Hare Krishna. Thank you very much.
So in that example of what Vidura gave, the explanation is about the precarious nature of a person in this material world and is anchoring towards sense objects in spite of all the trouble. But now that you have triggered this thought, if you extrapolate and see, if somebody says no, don't keep hanging, catch hold of this rope, I will pull you upwards, I will try to handle tiger, I will try to help you. At that time, we should not be saying that, please allow me to lick few more droplets of honey, which is what we are generally trying to do. When Brahma called Indra to come back, Indra had a curse to become a pig. And Indra had a 1 year period to be pig in the earthly planets. After the punishment period was over, when Brahma came and called Indra, please come back, Indra said that, what's the problem? I'm very happy with my, wife and children. So why are you bothering me? I mean, if you hear them, what do you think of Indra? We will write, several essays about him. How Indra's decision was bad. But what Indra took a decision of denying Brahma that I am satisfied here is what we are telling our, spiritual masters and others. So the story, if you want to extrapolate, there is a rope. That is why I chanted that verse from Billamangal Dagura. The spiritual authorities are ready to airlift you and provide you much, much more nourishing things. So please don't think that this material world can only offer you better things. Krishna can't. That's an illusion. Thanks for your comment, anyway. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Thank you very much.
Okay, so probably we can end the session here. Thank you all so much.
Yes, Prabhuji, thank you so much. Gita Mataji, you want to say something?
No, I just wanted to thank you, Prabhuji, for a very nice class. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Vancha Valkatarya Kripa Sindhu Eva Cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavyo Namo Namaha Anantakoti Vaishnav Ki Jai Namacharya Sharadas Thakur Ki Jai Prabhupada Ki Jai Jai Srimad Bhagvatam Ki Jai Jai Sri Ram Girdhari Prabhu Ki Thank you so much, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhuji,
Pranam.
for wonderful
Hare Krishna.
class as always. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.